Thanks for joining us here at The Research Her, the show working to improve the health disparities for women of color, one topic at a time. And I am Alicia. I'm here learning and growing with you as we research our way to wellness. What is up? Today we will be in conversation with one of the winners of the Black Women in Graduate School Therapy Fund. The fund was made to financially support Black women who are currently in graduate school with therapy and mental health resources. And Research Her LLC was able to get over $3,000 in cash donations, probably from you. If you made a donation, thank you so much for your contribution. All of the proceeds went to this effort of supporting Black women in graduate school. If you are interested in learning more about the fund, a link is included in the show notes with the Therapy Fund report. Camille Mosley is the winner that we will be talking to today. She is currently a second year Ph.D. student at the University of Notre Dame in the Biological Sciences Department. Her graduate research focuses on fishery ecology and management. She graduated from Emory University in 2019 with a Bachelor of Environmental Science. While in undergrad, she participated in research at Georgia Institute of Technology studying freshwater ecology. I am so excited for you all to learn more about Camille and her journey. Now let's get into this conversation with Camille Mosley. Hi, Camille. Thank you for being on the show. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Alicia. I'm excited to be here and talk with you.
Yay. So I want to start off with you just telling me a little bit about yourself and whatever you want to share.
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently a second year PhD student at the University of Notre Dame. My research focuses on recreational fisheries dynamics. So basically, I'm interested at how humans interact with the environment through fishing and what does that do for fish ecology and fish population dynamics.
So, do you enjoy, like, what got you into that research? Do you like fishing? I kind of know the answer, but.
I love fishing. So I grew up southern Mississippi. My grandma lives on the Gulf Coast, so going outside and fishing was like a regular occurrence and things that me and my brother did with my dad all the time. And so when I got a little bit older and into college that I could get paid to like fish and like do research and learn more about it, I was like, yes, this is for me. I really love like the fieldwork component, so I get to fish for science, which is not something you hear about every day, but I really do love that.
So, once you have the fish, do you take them back to the lab? Like, what do you do?
I mean, I don't know. I like to call myself a fish doctor. I joke with that with my PI all the time. So it's a mixture of things. So right now I'm doing an experiment where I'm manipulating like the habitat of a lake and seeing how that changes fish movement and also how that changes catch rates. So not only do we catch the fish, we tag them. So each has their own like identifier, and then a select group of fish have gotten acoustic tags, and those tags send off signals every so many like minutes or seconds so that I can track their movement within the lake. And then we also take fish diet so I know what they're eating. And we take a couple, like if fish happen to die, we freeze them and take them to the lab and we can do otolith analysis, which basically you take their ear bone and you can figure out how old the fish is. And there's a relationship between size and age of fish, so we can kind of see, okay, these fish that are this age or this size. So whenever we catch those individuals, we can kind of know what the age, class, and size structure dynamics are.
And like, I'm only familiar with fishing in a certain context, which is you catch them, you eat them. So when you're fishing, are you using a safer, less harmful, or less invasive type of hook to catch the fish? Like, how is it that you're able to catch them, throw them back in the water, and like not really feel bad about that process?
So luckily, most of the fish that I research are like sport fish, so they're already kind of in these catch and release fisheries. Bass are pretty hardy, so when you hook them, it's not too like hard to take them off. And we also like push down the barbs on the hooks so that it's easy to take out. So they're not being like caught very hard. And sometimes randomly, like you'll just get them at a weird spot on their fin, so it's not even like hard to release. And we have nets. And there's also nets. So like the traditional angling of what you're thinking about is like line and reel, but we also have some fish nets where we set those out so that we can look at the smaller fish individuals, whether that be the juvenile bass or a smaller forage fish like bluegill, which is a sunfish.
So when you say you send it out, are you literally just taking a net and like throwing it in the water and seeing what jumps into the net?
Well, no, we have these nets called fyke nets, and you set them in basically, and they'll stay in there overnight. They have like an anchor and a weight, and you put them right by the shore, and you just wait. The fish swim in there. You go and get them the next day. You pull them up, and then you find all the fish and let them go. Sometimes you get fun stuff like snapping turtles, which I got way too many this summer.
So when you're analyzing, like, so for instance, you did the acoustic, what did you call it? Like acoustic?
They're acoustic tags,
Yeah. So
fast tracking.
is this something that like you have to physically be there? Or how are you able to track using acoustics where the fish are? Do you have like a analyzer that sits by the lake, or is there something in the water? How does that look?
Yeah, so it's like a passive detection system. We have receivers at different locations in the lake, and each of those has like a 100-meter radius. So as the fish swim by those, because we know the locations of those, we can tell where they are in the lake.
That's really cool. So, what are the overall goals of your work, or how do you see yourself growing in your research in this field?
Yeah, so luckily, I'm hoping that this experiment goes well and I can learn more about how different gradients of habitat affect fish movement because, as humans have increased our population and developed different environments such as lake shorelines, we've decreased the amount of habitat. And so as we move towards climate change and different things, trying to understand how all these compounding effects to the fish, how we can maintain the fisheries and prevent collapse. Because I want my, future kids and grandkids to be able to fish as well. And also it's used as subsistence fishing. Like some people use fish for protein, like especially like indigenous culture, like fish is part of the lifestyle and fishing. So I want to find ways to, also get more people of color out there fishing and knowing that they can research fish. And I'm hoping as I continue my research and get more skills and mentor more, I can be set up to have my own lab and get more POC in there.
Nice. So, how did you get into this? Like, I would have never, until actually I didn't know or I didn't think about it till I met you, that people do research where they're catching fish and they're, looking at them do. I don't know what I thought you did till now, but how did you end up in this field?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to participate in an REU during my junior year at Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta, Georgia. And I had the best mentors. I had a professor from Georgia Tech and also a biologist from Fish and Wildlife. And these two women like totally changed my opinion and view on science and research. I did a project where I got to do field work, and so I was doing freshwater ecology, trying to detect a endangered crayfish species from urban streams. So at first I was like, whoa, I didn't even know all this life existed in Atlanta. Like just off the side of the road, there's a stream with all these fish and crayfish and aquatic insects. Like I was like, wow, there's so much here that I just didn't know about. They also encouraged me, like, we need more women in here. And then one of my mentors, also a Black woman, she was like, yeah, like, it stinks to be the only one, but the only way we get more is, educating people and letting them know about these opportunities. And from that, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I definitely want to learn more about the outdoors and be engaged with nature.
Cool. So, were you fishing before that or nah?
I would fish like with my family, but I didn't know that I could like study fish because also I went to Emory University, so like in Atlanta, pretty landlocked.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the environmental science courses I were taking were pretty terrestrial. So I wasn't even thinking about that for grad school until I had started that undergrad project.
So, are you considered like an ecology student or a biology student? This is just more for me. Is your PhD gonna be in biology or ecology?
So I'm in the biological sciences department, so it'll be in biology.
Okay.
In our department, we have people who study baboons, people who study like cancer, people who study fish like
Mm-hmm.
me. So it's a wide range, but
Got
it'll be
got
biology.
it. That's cool. That is such a diverse like amount of because ecology typically people will have like an ecology department, right? At some universities or no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
some people have it like ecology and evolutionary biology as one. Basically, we just have a biology department and then sectors.
And so you're doing work as an ecologist. How has this experience in the work that you've done like impacted like your social life and your family life? And does your PhD experience conflict with those?
So it's been a journey to do like work life balance. I went straight from undergrad to PhD. I'm fine with that choice. I definitely like know that if I were to stop, I probably wouldn't go back to school, but time, time management, it's always time for me. I have moments where I'm like probably just doing more personal stuff and like where that be hanging out with friends or family trips, and then I'm like super research focused where I'm like go 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 go. I'm trying to balance that more now because when I'm doing one or the other, there's always something that's not getting me needs aren't getting met, and it's stressful.
Mm-hmm. We talked yesterday, and you mentioned that you were done with your online or you were done with your courses, right? So,
Yes.
how was that? One, you're in your PhD program, and I'm assuming originally all of your classes were in person, right?
Yeah.
And then when once COVID hit, did they switch to online?
So yeah, when COVID happened, we switched. Well, Notre Dame continued to be in person. They decided to change the schedule to start students to come in earlier so that we could be done by Thanksgiving. Luckily, because I had taken in my first year just a lot of classes every semester and in person, I only needed one more. And they also changed the credit requirements to less in this last semester. So I really probably didn't even need to take this one class, but I took community ecology because it's a good class. It was discussion based too, so it wasn't too bad. But it was virtual because of the professor's decision, which I was very happy about because I could do field work and still take classes. So this summer I piloted my experiment, but because of COVID, we started later than we wanted to. And the acoustic tags, they last for like 90 days or so, and they cost like 400 pieces a pop. So I had to stay there until those tags ran out. So I was in Wisconsin. That's where I do my field research. And I was up there until middle of October. So I'm just now coming back and being in South Bend and like working from home.
So did you see a difference in like your productivity as in like an online learner versus when your classes were in person?
It was still hard. I thought, I'm taking one class that's discussion based, like I'll be okay, but it was still like a good bit of work. I feel for the undergrads who had to be in person because I don't think I could do it this semester just because of like, I don't want to say the world falling apart
But isn't it?
because of, well, it was just like all the things were happening. COVID happened, then obviously George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and I'm co-president of the Black Grad Student Association. So I'm over here like, I want to make sure we're all good just as people. The university wants to put me on every advisory board that they can, which, they do need diverse perspectives. Like, and they reached out, which I was thankful for, but it was just like a really hard balancing act of that, my one class, and then me doing like my own independent project, fully led by me, and me leading an undergrad. Like I only had one undergrad because it was COVID. We can't have a lot of people at the field station, so it was just a lot of new things and a lot of extra pressures alongside just managing my usual mental health. It was a struggle.
Did you find that your grade that you ended up getting in the class was not what you would have expected if you were taking a class in person, or everything went well with that?
It went well, and I think it's also due to the instructors. I can say that I was definitely blessed because they were like, let us know, like even with my fieldwork, so like, let us know if you need help, or if you can't complete a reading, or like however we can help you, let us know. So because of that grace, it wasn't too hard to get through. Because I had some days where I did not read because I was struggling to just stay, because whenever you're going through different mental health like issues, like even just getting up and like taking a shower can be a lot.
It can. It really can. So it sounds like you found your professors to be a little bit more accessible than usual.
Oh yeah, and I'm not sure if it's COVID related or if it's like
That professor in particular.
I definitely got some different people reaching out to me because of increase in social awareness about racism, for better or for worse.
Yeah, so you speak on like the university reaching out to you to be on, all these committees and things like that. What are some examples or some ways in which you have been working with your university and working with the community over the past few months?
One of the ways that I've been like engaging with undergrads and graduate students is with this group that we've just created called Graduate Students Against Racial Injustice at Notre Dame. We're still going through different names, but we're gonna get SAO approved that to be like a real university group. And we've done things like make resources available for students on campus and start disseminating flyers and other information so that people know, like, really know what anti-racism is, because people don't understand that it's a journey, not a destination. So we're all continually learning to do better and pushing for implicit bias training for faculty and other instructors. I'm in a TA of color learning group and community, and we've been talking about different pedagogy and approaches where we can incorporate our lived experiences and diverse experiences of our students to try to, decolonize academia. Because it's some of the coursework, you'd be surprised, especially for like some of the history classes. It's not nuanced at all. But it's been good though, because I can definitely say that as I've talked with like the president and the provost and things, we are definitely moving in the right direction. I'm sad that it took something like so catastrophic as the recent events for that to happen, but here we are.
Mm-hmm. So how have you been taking care of yourself?
I've been doing that recently by going to therapy because I thought I was taking care of myself for a long time, but I was not. I was looking more at the results instead of like how I was actually feeling. So I was like, oh, well, I completed these assignments, or I got this grade, so like I'm doing well. I'm doing well, but no, like I was not getting enough sleep, super stressed out and anxious, and like more than usual. And like also my nutrition wasn't the best, so I've been trying to set goals and add some structure to my life and be more consistent about even the basic self-care stuff, just like eating regularly.
So how long have you been going to therapy?
Let's see, I started therapy this summer. It took a second to get there. I have a close friend who's getting ready to finish up grad school, and she told me, she was like, you're going to need therapy. You're not going to be able to get through grad school without therapy. And I was like, what are you talking about? I got through undergrad. And like, I knew in undergrad, I definitely had some depressive episodes because, like, I did not want to get out of bed, like, for days and different things. But I was like, it's fine. I made it. I still did my research. I had work. I was still great. It was fine. I graduated. There's no way that I can't just figure this out on my own. But once the summer happened and all the different things of 2020, I was like, no, no. And so And also like going to Wellness Wednesday with Stem Noir, I was hearing other people's experiences, and I was like, oh, like it's normal, it's okay, like people get help like for their mental health, just like you need to go to the dentist and get your teeth cleaned. Like it's just a self-care thing and that I need to do. And so I went to therapy for Black girls because I was like, I don't want to have to explain and unpack microaggressions in a whole session. And, I want to really be understood. So I found a therapist that I could do like tele appointments with, since I was still doing field work at the time, and also it's COVID. And it was like the best decision, like probably the best decision I made this year. Easy.
Yeah. So, how much do you pay to go to therapy? Typically in a month.
Probably about $400. It's expensive.
Yeah, and I want to just like kind of put myself out there and say when I was in grad school, my stipend after taxes was somewhere around like 1900 or something like that. So that's how much I made when I was in grad school at Purdue.
Okay.
So when I was doing therapy towards the end of my PhD, I was literally throwing like a whole like that's a nice percentage of my check at just therapy because I too was paying about that much. I personally was paying like $640 a month.
Ooh.
Yeah. 33% of my check was going to
I
therapy.
mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It's expensive.
Just to kind of give everyone an idea of what's going on these side of the town with being a PhD student wanting to get therapy, but we all know that that might be the higher end of therapy. My question is, are there cheaper options? And if so, why didn't you choose those?
Yeah, I was going back and forth about what I wanted to do. It was something where it was like in network, like going to like the university, like counseling services. One, they're super like overwhelmed and like packed with the amount of people who need to be seen, because that includes undergrads and graduate students. And I they don't have anybody on staff who looks like me. To put it plainly, I was like, I think that I need a Black therapist. And so I was like, I'm going to make the choice to do that because I'd rather pay a little bit extra or pay a lot extra to get all my needs met instead of going the cheaper route.
What were your needs in a therapist?
I needed someone who would be able to like understand my perspectives and emotions, especially when it came to like cultural issues, because a lot of my anxiety was around some of these different issues. Like, I've been learning how to drive recently. I have my permit right now. And it's really stressful for me because like I'm always thinking like, okay, wait, where do I have my wallet? Like insurance stuff, like how am I driving? Like every time I drive, my legs like shake. I'm okay to do it, but like it's stressful because of police brutality, and like that's a real threat. Like it's not, just a thing of my imagination. Like it's real and apparent, and also family dynamics. So there's cultural things that when I talk about family issues that I don't have to explain to my therapist, about how a lot of, because I come from a Black Southern family. I love them. But because of that, there's a lot of like religious things sometimes. And oh, we value people having partners over education sometimes. And so just the value system and understanding where I'm coming from, it's nice to have that. And also just the experience of being an educated like Black woman, like you get this misogynoir everywhere. It's the little things, but they do add up and really impact our mental health. And so having someone who can empathize, understand, and like give me tools that I can help manage my mood and emotions is really great.
So beyond your therapist, did you have a community there at Notre Dame that you could depend on?
So like through being in like the Black Graduate Student Association, I've like made like friends, and so we have like our groups where we do like different like happy hour things or like game nights together. And I have a couple best friends that like I've met from being here. I also still talk to a lot of my friends from undergraduate, So at Emory, I talked to I have some grad student friends there because I took some grad classes, and also obviously STEM Noir Wellness Wednesday. That is my usual fellowship every month. And I've been trying to also, engage with more science communicators, like via Twitter and different things like that, because nobody really understands this experience like other people in graduate programs.
Yeah, so throughout your PhD, have you been on the dating scene?
Sadly, yes.
Sadly, yes. I was like, yes, obviously, and I tried.
It's interesting. So, I mean, most Black women, we know that dating for us is always in a challenge at times. But for me, as a Black queer woman in the Midwest, it is extra difficult. When I first started, or not too long after I first started, I had a relationship for about like 6 months or so that it ended up working out. But after that, when I was like, I'm really going to actually try and like meet people and like go on dates and everything, it wasn't it, Chief. I don't know how to explain it because it's something where I'm a young person pursuing a graduate degree, and so a lot of people my age are like still figuring out what they want to do, which is fine. But I really like stability, consistency, and kind of like knowing where stuff is going. So that's kind of hard for me. I'm a very open person, I would think, but dating outside of my race can sometimes be a challenge just because it's hard to fully understand where somebody's coming from if they're really like appreciating my culture or if I'm being fetishized in a way, because that's always really awkward. I don't want to be the I just wanted to try chocolate thing. Like that's just not my ideal relationship.
It's very interesting to hear you speak on that. And I actually want you to maybe elaborate more because I really wish I would have asked the last person I interviewed to elaborate. I'm sorry, I'm using you. But like it came up in the last interview that I did where I was talking to Beverly Hutcherson, and she was saying how one thing that she experienced too was as a Black woman in a white space that people like you're seen as exotic, you're seen as like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I want to get this fetish met, and in some cases it's like people want to kind of dip their toe in the water and you have to kind of navigate that space. Have you found that in your experience you had to be a little bit more careful with your dating than some of your peers had been? And I don't know how close you are to people in your program.
Yeah, no, I definitely think I have. Also, a lot of people in our program are married now. At least a lot of people got married this year. But also, there's like I told you, there's age range, large age range. Like there's some people who came in like when I did, and some people who came in later in life, and so they already have a family established. A lot of people like to date within a department sometimes, which there's not a lot of queer people, and I'm also the only Black woman in the ecology side of the department, like grad student or faculty. We don't have any Black faculty, so that's not an option. And also, I go to a Catholic institution. I mean, I was raised Catholic, so that's not an issue for me. But some people don't always feel comfortable with that, and because I'm very now, this was a process that took me to get here. But now that I'm very comfortable in my sexuality and fine with being gay, there's some people who also aren't comfortable with being out, and I've chosen really not to try to date people like that just because it's very awkward whenever, like very simple things. Like I just want to just post like going on a trip or something and I can't post you. That's kind of weird. And family is really important to me, and so I don't want to be a secret. Anybody can watch The Happiest Season. You don't want to be a secret.
Wait, the happy that's a show?
It's a movie that just came out on Hulu with Kristen Stewart, and her partner brings her home, but it's like, oh wait, on the way when they're in the car, like, I haven't come out to my parents yet, and they think you're my roommate.
Um So you that's something that I haven't, you know, thought about, is the idea of like, not only do you have to get past, okay, you're a black woman in this white space. So black, you know, woman, so
Mm-hmm.
women tend to be the ones who have to like seek, I don't know. Anyways, you you got to get past the fact that you're black, you're a woman, and then now you're a queer woman, but you are out. And there is another level of like, okay, now I'm out. I don't want to date people who aren't, you know? So that, and then you're in this Christian environment. How many, I don't know if you would know this, but I just wonder how many people actually go to Catholic universities and are Catholic. Is that why people choose Notre Dame? Because like I do realize that certain places, like, they are run Catholic, but I just wonder how many people actually choose to go to the university and are truly Catholic, or how many people go and they just got a good opportunity. You know, they got a good scholarship, or it's just, you know, I go for this particular organization. I mean, I go for this particular program. This is something which is very off topic.
Yeah, I know they have the no, I know that they have the stats for it. They have initiatives like in recruitment that seek out Catholic individuals, and I believe it's the same way with undergraduates, where there's a certain percentage that I think the majority is Catholic, just because like it is like easy to go to mass because like priests on campus, they have basilica, like it makes it easy. There's definitely like in the department, like no judgment though, but also like we're scientists, so like a lot of people believe different things, and it's pretty like respected sometimes, and especially like with ACB being chosen for Supreme Court, there can be conflicts and issues with the stances people take or think they should take because of their faith.
So is dating right now a priority for you?
I think sometimes I try to make it that, but maybe it shouldn't be. Last night we were talking about like, do we feel weird like it's like around the holidays and we don't have anybody. For me, it's been kind of weird because I've had a partner for like around the holidays every year since freshman year of undergrad. So this is my first time like really by myself, and like I'm trying to get more comfortable with it. I know it's fine. There's definitely some people like kind of in my life. I'm trying to figure out that work-life balance, like I said, as usual, because there's a lot of work I need to do. I'm writing like my first author paper, and this manuscript, scientific writing is hard. And also, my PI told me, he's like, the first one is always, oof, it's a little hump to get over. So I'm really trying to like focus right now and get that done. But it's nice to have. I'm one of those people where I like having somebody just because I like cuddling, spending time together, that type of thing. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
hopeless romantic at heart, I sadly, and so I think my therapist, me and her go back and forth. It's like, okay, that's fine if that makes you happy, cool, but you need to figure out really what you want and what you need so that you can communicate that. But it's hard in this day and age, I would say. Like, I don't know about you, but these dating apps, people just do a lot.
Wait, are you talking about like people who are dating, or like, or people online?
Online, offline, all of it is just a lot.
Yeah, so I don't date. I'm not dating. I'm not dating. So like, I truly am that person who I be minding my own. I be drinking my water, and I be minding my business. And every now and again, someone may like slide in my, like, not my DM, but like text my phone out of nowhere, and then I'm like, okay, I'll entertain this for like a week, and then I'm like, okay, I'm over this. This is trash, and then I go back to minding my business and drinking my water. So personally, I don't date, so I don't know what the dating scene looks like, just because I am very comfortable right now with just being Alicia. And the reason why is because I look at the, like, I know I want to be married. Like, there is no doubt in my mind that I want to have a partner who we grow things together. We we become wealthy together and we have kids and we do these things as part, like in partnership, right?
Mhm.
I am not someone who wants to just kind of be like, I'm not a casual dater and I don't have sex casually. When I've tried to have sex casually, I have ended up in my feelings. So
Yeah.
with that, I decided, I won't do that anymore. This goes back to the point of then you get to lead looking at like the statistics related to marriage. So most people under age 34 are unmarried. So I'm not a minority in this thing, like of not being married. And I figured, well, I'm 27 years old. It's not likely that I'll be getting married in my 20s, honestly. And if I know I'm not, that's not likely for me just based on the math, I'm going to just sit back and chill. And at the end of the day, like most things that have happened in my life came to me when I was not expecting it. So not like most of the things, like ideas, even when I think about the research her, I wasn't going out looking to find like this podcast. Like one day I was just sitting there and it came to me. Like I want to, this is what I see happening. I wasn't like trying to create a podcast. The idea hit me. So that's another thing. Like whoever I end up with, like I just think one day I'm just gonna like look up. I'm like, oh, look at me in love and shit. So I realize that, and I just don't have any anxiety about being alone. Like I have no fear of spending the rest of my life alone if that's the way that it was meant to be for me, just out of the fact that like if I have that internal peace, I'll just be okay with it. And shit, all these people having kids, I'm gonna be wealthy enough, I'll probably go out and buy me one or something like that. So because I seek partnership in other people versus just like sex, I don't feel like dating and playing around with people, because people in their 20s want to play. And I find that like the guys that I tried to date in the beginning, when I was like, oh, so I had a breakup about a year ago, and the guys that I've tried to date since then, when they were in their 20s, they're like playing. And the guys that are in their 30s, they were looking for marriage. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not ready for marriage, so let me sit my ass down. So that's how it played out for me. So no,
So you playing the waiting
exactly.
game.
I'm playing a long game. I'm literally not waiting. I'm just like, existing and becoming my best self. I go to therapy. I haven't been working out, but I was as 3 weeks ago. I'm gonna get back to it. These are all things like when I can be more consistent with myself, I feel like I'll be more consistent with someone. I just don't think I'm the wife I want to be right now. I'm not the girlfriend I want to be. Like I just have a bunch of shit that I don't care about in my character. So I want to fix those things. Not to say I'm gonna ever be perfect, but I just have certain things that I see in others that irritate me, and I think it irritates me because I see it in myself. So that's my spiel on life right now.
No, that's completely valid and fair. My best friend, who's basically my sister, she told me, she was like, look, as soon as you stop looking for it, it's gonna happen. Like you need to stop, pressuring it, like trying to make people into what you want them to be, and just wait. And then what's supposed to happen for you is gonna happen. And so I'm trying so hard. I'm a control freak sometimes. I'm like a perfectionist, and so I like, knowing what's gonna happen next. Um, Maybe that's why I like some of the science stuff. But then also I learned like, okay, PhD, like it's all over the place. It's a journey. So I'm trying to get more comfortable with all of that uncertainty. But yeah, I don't know.
Do you ever feel like nervous about like what if you spend the rest of your life single? Does that idea like give you anxiety or like scare you at all?
It does. So me and my therapist have talked about this. It's like I tend to always try to find a person because I'm like, what if I don't have any person? And she's like, well, think about it though. Every time you go back out or try to find whatever to fill this void, you find a person, you find somebody. You don't have a problem finding people. So why are you rushing? What's wrong with what is it? And she said it like I was like, what? I was like, oh my goodness, that's a point. If it's always there, never leaving, what is the rest to go out there and do all that? And I also know that I'm younger. It's just it might be a little bit of the U-Haul tendencies. Other gay people might understand what I'm saying. I have an urge to nest and be done, to be one and done like all the time. But I need to just be okay with the uncertainty and also just be okay with being alone. I'm honestly slightly married to my dissertation right now, so I need to think about if I even really do have the time or space or capacity to like entertain somebody else. But like I told you, like half my lab is married right now, basically, or have long-term partners, and so I'm like, well, they've managed it, but also they're here, and because I'm in South Bend, and the queer community is this big, at this point, for real, like at this point, like all of the like queer women of color in this general area, I kind of know or know somebody they know, and so then it's Chicago, but Chicago is like hour 45 away, and honestly, it's not that community there is not that little either. In our heads, we're like, oh, it's this big place, but it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like science is the same way. The circle is like, it's small.
It's so small because we were just talking about that. We were just saying, like, when I was trying to decide between, well, I'm still deciding between moving to Chicago or moving to Dallas. And, I grew up in Chicago. And so it was just like the black community is just so small that it's just like everyone knows somebody who knows somebody. Like, you are literally like 1 degree of separation from a person if you're from Chicago. So, yeah, it's a very small, just the black community as a whole, and everyone knows each other. So, do you, with that, feel any pressure family wise to be in a relationship or be married or anything like that?
Sometimes I do. I love my grandmother. But like last time I saw her in person, she was like, so, how is so and so? She was asking about my ex boyfriend. Mind you, I'm very far removed from that now. Um, I was like, oh no, Granny. Oh no. Um, I think definitely it's a Southern thing. Like a lot of, my friends, got engaged like after graduation, which is cool. I'm if that's for you, like that's great. But MRS degree was not for me, and so it was hard too because I was like it was later. I was like, well, I'm doing good in school, that's fine. Like
Mm-hmm.
you want to know about that? And she was like, no, really, not really. I was like, well, okay. So sometimes I feel some pressure with my parents, like my immediate family. My parents are great. I love them so much.
Yeah.
They won't. I think if anything, they want me to still take more time. They were always in the mindset of you can get married when you're like 53. Like they used to joke and say that all the time.
I mean, the reality is that that's very true, though. I've seen people get married at 50 something. Yeah, like it's not as uncommon as we kind of play it out to be, cuz the reality is like people get divorced and then they marry someone else. So that's something else to consider. Like, do I want to get married, hop into it just to have to turn around and say fuck this person and get another husband or wife, whatever the case may be.
Shoot, and pay for another wedding. I don't want to have to pay for that
Yeah,
twice.
and most of the people I know who have gotten remarried, they don't have a second wedding, and so yeah, that's another thing to consider. Like the way that it's just like the odds of being in a marriage from the time that you are in your early 20s all the way through the rest of your life, if you get to live to be 70, 80 years old, it's kind of slim to none. Like there is always that unicorn couple that makes it. You very rarely see that couple that they're 60 years in, they're 50 years in. So it's just like because of the way technology has made us so much closer to each other, it's like people have access to whoever they want in the world. And I'm not saying that is, it just gives us more options, and I don't think that that's the reason why people end up divorcing or anything like that. I just think that it's the reason why people like, hold on now, I don't gotta marry Susan from high school. I might be able to move over to Baltimore and see Juju. So we we got options here. But technology is a wonderful thing, but So yeah, I think with that, like again, people get divorced all the time, and so getting married at 50 something is not unheard of in our society where we truly believe like you don't like somebody, you just divorce them and you just get you a new somebody.
My mom was probably like 35 ish when she got married to my dad, and this is my dad's third marriage. But they've been together for 25 years, and they were friends like for a long time. So when I see them together, I'm like, okay.
Was your mom 35 after like older than 35 when she had you, or had they been together before that?
She had me and my brother after they got married, and me and my brother are 15 months apart. So they got
Oh
married, and
wow.
then boom, boom.
So first of all, I told you that most people under 34 are not married, and you didn't tell me that your mom is exactly the person that I'm talking about. Like she literally hit 35. Like, okay, it's
It
my
didn't
time to
click till
shine,
now. It
baby.
didn't click till now when you started talking about that. And I was like, oh shoot.
That's your. It's literally your mom. She said, you know what? Okay, my time to shine. Boop. And then she had her children, and that's dope as hell. So your mom is literally me. Like that's how I'm trying to be. I just like let me just wait and live my best life, and one day I'm gonna look up and oh shoot, I love somebody. That's cute. All right, you want to marry me? Cool, cool, cool. Let's do that.
But yeah,
So
they've always been really good with like telling me to like live my life. Like while you don't have kids and you're by yourself, go travel, go do things that you want to do for you.
yeah. So, please tell me the difference between the two places where you were. So, Notre Dame is one place, and then you did your field work in another place, but both were still in the Midwest.
Yes, so Notre Dame has an environmental research center that we call UNDERC. That property is in northern Wisconsin, and that's where I do my field research. So that's where I have my whole lake experiment. And then the actual
Mm-hmm.
university is in South Bend, Indiana.
Got it. Okay. And then, just kind of like as my last question, I really want to know what are some tips that you would say to someone navigating their PhD, specifically maybe, first, second year, and a black woman who is in this white space just trying to, figure things out?
Yes. Oh, so all the things. I've also been reading Dr. Grayson's book, so like, oh, get that book first off. Number one, get the book. Hooded. Number two, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of times the way that we structure like classes and science and different things, we feel like we should know everything. You're, Nobody knows everything. And that's the point. That's why we're here. We're trying to learn things. And so don't be afraid to ask for help, support, whether that be from your advisor, other grad students, and make sure you take care of you. And that is, you know, everything, be it the mental health, your body, like nutrition, exercise. There's so many things. Like it's like the small stuff, like building a community, find your people. And that might not be within your university, and that's okay. I've also made like friends, like, just like in the community. I think that's been helpful because sometimes we can kind of get in a bubble when you're stuck like at the university all the time and just talking to those people. And when I say ask for help, that also means like if you need a mental health day or time off or you need to go see your family, like ask that. I think most advisors, if you're being productive and getting your work done, are going to be pretty flexible with those type of requests. And also, if something doesn't feel right, it might not be right, and say something. I was lucky enough to where I had some interactions where, when in choosing my advisor, I was very intentful about how I did it because we all know that there's different people in departments that don't have necessarily the most healthy lab environment or culture, and you don't want to be a part of that. And if you get into that, you don't have to stay there. It's not a have to.
Well, thank you so much for your words of wisdom.
Thank you.